Hi, this is Damien AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can simply be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. And I want to address the value of good belief etiquette. I hear some atheists say they don't have beliefs, but that itself is a belief. And I think that the issue you should understand is a belief, in a sense, is a claim that you accept. So whenever someone says a claim, what I always want to know is it justified? And so, to me, I think that we need to be disciplined in our rationality and think about, when something is offered, like sometimes people will make a claim. The object shouldn't be, in a sense, to attack just the claim. We should ask about the claim, and we should ask about what the justification for the claim is. When I say ask about the claim, what I basically mean is we want to clarify, unless we totally understand what they're talking about, what the ontology is of what they're talking about, because we don't want to straw man them, and we also want to hold them accountable to the claim they're actually making. That way, if we can, in a sense, show it to be an error, we're actually showing the actual claim that they're making, the one that they're holding themselves to be an error. That way, because if we prove something an error, even if it's what we think they said or what they may have said, if they haven't owned it, well, then they can just move right on out and say, I didn't say that. Some people may still do this, and it's dishonest, but if they've already owned it. But it does help, because if we can inspire people to agree with what they say, which shouldn't be that hard because they're saying it, and then we can hold them accountable by challenging what justification. So someone says, I believe in God, the first thought should be, what do you mean by God? I want to clarify what they mean by that. So that way we can then hold them accountable to whatever they claim. And then we want to know, well, how do you know that? We want to know, what's your justification? So what they offer justification, that's the epistemology, the reasoning, how they come to this knowledge. And then once they offer it, then to me, we value judge or use axiology to, in a sense, figure out what part of the claim is it accurate, how, what are its elements, and what's its good for, what is its worth, its quality. So to me, though, in general, what we need to do is have like I said again, a disciplined rationality, which to me is motivated by principles of correct reasoning, with emphasis on valid and reliable methods or theories, leading to, in a sense, a range of rational standpoints or conclusions. And understanding that concepts of beliefs often have, in a sense, consequences to what you believe, and thus hold it as an imperative to find truth, or at least as close to truth as we can adequately, be acquired, and certainly a rejecting of untruth. And disciplined rationality can be seen as an aid in understanding the fundamentals of knowledge, sound evidence, justified true beliefs, involving things like the decision theory and the concern with identifying the values, the reasonableness, the verification for, the soundness, in a sense, the qualities, the certainties that are being offered, or the uncertainties that are being offered, or are being possessed, and other related issues, resulting in understanding the most clear, optimal decision or conclusion, or belief or disbelief that's required, or warranted, or justified. Disciplined rationality attempts to understand the justification, or the lack of it, in propositions and beliefs, concerning itself with the various epistemic or knowledge features of belief, truth, or knowledge, which include ideas in the sense that I would profess as justification for things, warrant for things, the rationality for things, how reliable or how much reliability there are in what's being claimed, the validity in a sense, and not just in a logical thing that it has a valid structure, but that it has a validity and, in a sense, a truth quality to it. Like how valid, is it to be, I guess, an accuracy. And then how much likelihood or probability does it really have to be accurate or true? And epistemological principles and epistemic logic. According to Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, setting the concerns on the formal representation of knowledge involves reflecting carefully on the epistemological principles to which one is committed. An uncontroversial example of such principles, which most philosophers will accept, is, in a sense, a proposition is known, then it is true. And so sometimes I hear people say, well, science knows this, but science doesn't claim truth. Well, they may not claim the truth, but in a sense, you're making a truth statement when you say you know something. You cannot know something and then say that you don't see it as true. You can, in a sense, know something is false or true, or you don't know it. So in other words, you can say that I know this was wrong or an error, thus it is, I know this. And you can say it's accurate, which accuracy is that it has truth. But once again, to me, science doesn't try. Some people go like, well, science doesn't focus on truth. Yeah, because science is a relationship to the evidence. It's not a philosophy in the sense of trying to make universal claims. It's trying to be the most accurate to the available, evidence. So it's a relationship to or with the evidence. And thus it also should, a good belief etiquette is the issue, as we're already saying, that it should be a value for a belief etiquette, that we should have this internal desire, an intellectually honest desire, for a standard, so that we can champion things that are, in a sense, worthy to believe. And belief should be open to revision and should have been scrutinized before we start believing them or to continue holding them. Thus it can be said that sound, justified, or warranted beliefs need valid and reliable reason and evidence, or likely should not be believed or reevaluated before they're kept as one's belief. May I be a rationalist, holding fast to a valued belief etiquette, demanding reasoned belief acquisitions, have a good belief maintenance, and an honest belief relinquishment. And when I say reasoned belief acquisitions, I mean that we constantly get beliefs all the time. We're like belief generating machines or belief accepting machines. We accumulate beliefs, whether we know it or not. There's some things that we intentionally, seek to understand so that we can believe or not believe. But believing is the action of just accepting things as true, or accepting things as likely true, or things that we agree with, we believe them. So that happens all the time. We have to then, because of that, I think that we have to stay reticent or, be thoughtful in a reasoned way, that we're going to be, have a need to be careful that we don't just let in a bunch of, unreasoned beliefs in. Now, this is going to probably happen anyways. We are going to pick up things because as long as they're not too controversial, sometimes if they are, we'll let them in. And so that's why, to me, that also is a need for good belief maintenance, a rechecking, a reassessing, and an openness. It's not that all beliefs must be, in a sense, removed or revised, but we should have an openness, open to them being revised, not a fixed thing that we cannot, let ideas be challenged or, if needed, through warrant, be changed. So, and then if they're found wanting, and they're found to be in error, or they're found to be not as accurate, we should strive to make them more accurate, to update them, to, in a sense, have an honest belief relinquishment if they can't do all that, just to let them go, and to find that which is accurate or stop believing that which is inaccurate. And a friend of mine, Marquise, he said, I think it is sound thinking. It's important to base beliefs on scientific methodology, which of the aspects is testing and continued observation of an event in reality. Facts can change, such as we don't know everything. However, continued observations is a consistency. In his opinion, holding on to false beliefs is harmful to a person and their thinking. To him, that is one reason why religion, for example, can be so bad. And that we have a wealth of evidence against gods historically, and the beliefs also often conflict with known facts. Yet people hold on to these ideas regardless. Maintaining etiquette in belief is good for healthy thinking and self-honesty. And Marquise has, in a sense, many thinking errors, he said. Emotionally, sometimes he will entertain wild ideas, but he remembers not to believe them. Other times, he will often say that he doesn't know because of lack of evidence or knowledge on his part. And he thinks that it helps with a good belief etiquette. And so we are searching for truth and can only be done through honest searching. Then a challenger said to Damien, said that belief should be open to revision. Are you open to revising this belief? And then Marquise responded, if there is logical reason to, that is where there is indisputable evidence, then it likely wouldn't need revision. Mr. AtHope has written about knowledge certainty, which deals with evidence, amounts, and strength. For example, I don't think, this is Marquise talking, scientific laws would need to be revised because of the amount of testing in support of them. However, if errors were found, then I think it would be warrant revision. So the question is knowledge certainty and evidence versus reason or revision. And then my response, I am open to revising all beliefs if warranted and justified. I have a sound belief etiquette. And if you have another that is more accurate than what I utilize, please post it and I will assess its worth, and if needed, I will utilize it. The Marquis stated, well, if the statement belief should be open to revision where to be revised, then we would have to accept that some beliefs should not be open to revision. And this is exactly the position of fundamentalists. At some point, we all have some ethical and moral bedrock, things that are not open to revision. For me, it's the safety of my children. I didn't arrive at that by any rational process. I'm made that way. For the scientific method, it is primarily evidence and objectivity. But you can't say that very primacy should be open to revision to remain scientific. So this is that was the challenger responding to Marquise. And my response, the challenger then to me. Damien AtHope, you cannot be open to revising all beliefs and then say you're open to whether you should be open to revising all beliefs. I'm trying to show you that foundationalism is present in any system. We all hold certain positions that are not themselves based on the system we are foundational of. My response to the challenger. So you seem to be making an ultimate truth statement about my being open. So you are claiming to know what I feel better than me, or are you making an absolute knowledge claim? Please fully explain how you can claim to know this and its accuracy to my position. I am open, but you have to demonstrate the valid and reliable warrant and justification to do so first. And then the challenger, Damien AtHope, I didn't say anything about you. I was making statements about revision of ideas, about the meanings of words like open and revising. And then the challenger responds again. I did use the word you. I probably should have used the word one instead, because I was making observations that apply to anyone, not just you. Logical constraints and definition of words apply to everyone. It's nothing personal. My response. Okay, thanks. As you said, you now agree. So you have then a universal truth claim. Please fully demonstrate its accuracy and how you know this is a universal objective truth. Challenger's response. Damien AtHope, which truth claim are you talking about? You said you are willing to revise your beliefs. I asked if that applied to that belief. Are you willing to revise your belief that you are willing to revise your beliefs? That's all I'm asking. No big truth claim about it. My response. You claimed. You, or one as you now changed it to, saying I was making observations that apply to everyone, not just to me. Cannot, this is his claim, that one, because we'll just use his term, one cannot be open to revising all beliefs. Demonstrate this as you state it as a universal objective truth. Thus, please fully demonstrate its accuracy and how you know this proposed belief dynamics. Marquise then responds, I think I understand the question. It would require Mr. AtHope to attain absolute knowledge of his beliefs to logically have no need to revise them at all. Within objective reality for human beings, that would be, in my opinion, an impossibility. So in theory, the hypothetical answer is yes. In objective reality, the logical answer is no. Reality has limitations, and so do people. The challenger responds, Damien AtHope, I see the problem now. You only quoted the first part of what I said. Here is the complete statement. You cannot be open to revising all beliefs, and say you're open to whether you should be open to revising all beliefs. In other words, you can't say you're open to revising all beliefs, because that would mean you're open to revising that belief too, which would be a contradiction. That's all I'm trying to point out. And my response was, I am open to revising that belief too, and would if given warrant to do so. Thus again, you still have not shown how I cannot be open, which you still have a burden of proof to do. I am expressing an epistemology virtue relating to beliefs. I see the problem now. You only quoted the first part of what I said. Here is my complete statement. Beliefs should be open to revision and should have been scrutinized before believing, to start with, or to continue holding. I agree with those that see virtue epistemology as a worthy endeavor, as an aim to promote intellectual well-being, often accompanied by, in a sense, analysis, characteristics of virtue theories in both ethics and epistemology, as well as an epistemological theory should be of practical use in helping us recognize when we do or do not know something, or help us overcome anxieties due to, in a sense, defective presuppositions about knowledge, and that virtue epistemology should inspire us with the intellectual virtues, thereby promoting, in a sense, critical reformation or intellectual flourishing. And virtue epistemology should examine intellectual vices and other defects to tell, in a sense, cautionary tales of what not to do or how not to be. As well as virtue epistemology practitioners should help redesign educational institutions to help students cultivate intellectual virtues, from the Stanford University of Philosophy. And so the challenger states, Damien AtHope, I'll try once more. I think we are talking past each other here, but here it is. It is a contradiction to say you are at the same time open to revising beliefs and not open to revising beliefs. To say all beliefs should be open to revision would apply to that very statement. Yet, if that statement, all beliefs should be open to revision, were to be revised, it would mean that there must be some beliefs that would not be open to revision. It is like saying I'm lying or the sentence is false. My response: it is a fallacy to change my words so you think you have debunked me with your position. Rather, you are seeming to demonstrate intellectual looseness with your statements. Try relating to my quotes, not your limited desired interpretations. If anyone here is intellectually in error, it is you. Strawmanning much? And Marquise Amon says, I am just going to post this quote from Damien in this thread. I am open to revising that belief too, and would, if given warrant to do so. He said yes to your question, Challenger. Challenger to me. Damien AtHope, sure. Just said you can't be open to revising that belief and holding that belief at the same time. It would entail a contradiction. My response: and I don't get what you choose to not get about being open is the key. I am open to not being open if shown warrant to do so. There is no contradiction. It's like saying you're a true free thinker, as the challenger had claimed, and then saying if you were truly free, you would be free to choose closed-minded thinking too, a logical fallacy, similar to what you're doing and going on about with me now. The challenger, Damien AtHope, okay, good, we're in agreement. The point is that a person cannot hold both your points at the same time. What you seem to be saying is that you might give up the belief if warrant came along. That makes sense to me. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. I would be open. I'm not saying I would change it. And then Marquis says, indeed, I thought the gentleman was clear on that point. Still, the analogy is very concise to support it. To clarify, one cannot hold both points at the same time because it would require one of those points to be amended or generate infinite revision loop. The challenger. So, if we're going to revise it, Marquis, which I'm not revising it, it would go something like this. Some beliefs should not be open to revision. All we could have to do is come up with one example and we would show it was untrue, which it was never done in my case. Then you would have to say your original statement could not be sustained. And Marquis says, agreed. However, the key point is some beliefs, but the original was all. If some beliefs were in conflict, they potentially may never be resolved because they may be inconclusive evidence or evidence that continues overwrite the previous. So the rest of what I'm going to read now was from Marquis and me in a private message. To me, we should engage in debate with open and intellectual honesty. In a sense, to teach or learn if needed, staying epistemologically willing to do so, which is the same as my willing and openness, and not just wishing to argue to look smart. Thus, one cannot be an honest thinker, nor an open to learn if needed, rather an emotional ego thinker, if they don't stay open and willing. Thus, a limited learner to me. And there simply and rightly must be an intellectual, ethical belief responsibility or burden of proof to justify the believed truth that is claimed to others is actually demonstrably as being true with valid and reliable reason and or evidence when it is stated as such. Yes, intellectually, one should provide justificationism for their assertions that map the sort of governing good habits of belief formation, belief maintenance, and belief relinquishment. One should understand the burden of proof with intellectual honesty and avoid doing the use of employing intellectual dishonesty like fallacies in logic and empty, unjustified assumptions. I value you, my friend Marquis. And then Marquis to me, Damien, I value you as well, and have been making new comments. He indicates that some beliefs should not be revised. I agree, but it is possible that some beliefs cannot be resolved if they are in conflict or possess insufficient evidence to resolve them, or while highly unlikely, a continuous stream of new evidence. The question deals with both reality and hypotheticals. There are some absolutes in reality, yet to logically amend all your beliefs, you'll need absolute certainty of all of them. This is a contingent of, in a sense, on changing your beliefs. In reality, that would never happen. However, in theory, it could. Hence, your willingness to do so calls for it. It isn't a conflict. He was arguing points in a pragmatic theory of truth and reality. Two different things. You have helped me learn a lot and improve my thinking. Ego is more often an enemy, like anger. It can be corrupting and limiting. I like friendliness because it creates a positive atmosphere. My response: thanks, Marquise, and very true. Ethics before ego. In this case, it is ethics of belief and open intellectual honesty. Marquise responds: correct. They follow the rules of logic. If it lacks reason, evidence, or logic, it is not worth believing in. You have said before, it is not about being right, but about coming to an understanding of thinking, as well as a roadmap to the truth. So now I'm going to read my ideas on being a sound thinker. Sound thinking to me in a general way is thinking, reasoning, or beliefs that tends to make foresight a desire to be as accurate as one can, with valid and reliable reason and evidence. Sound axiological judgment to me is the presumptive value success. Presumptive value can be understood in a axiological sense. When someone says this is true, they presume its value as truth. They're saying that it has qualities inside of it. It contains something. When they say something is justified, they're giving an assertion that it's valuable. When they say that something, in a sense, is evidence, that term or fact, besides what it means in the dictionary, in a sense, the core of all those things, whether it's facts, you claim a term, facts, knowledge, evidence, truth, validity, all these have presumptive value to them. In a sense, so that's to me what I try to judge is the presumptive value. What is it that you're claiming is valuable, and then is it actually valuable? So presumptive value success is value judged opinions expressed as facts with valid and reliable justification. In an informal and psychological sense, it is used as a reference to the quality of the cognitive faculties and the adjudication of the capacities of particular individuals, the ability to understand this, typically called wisdom or discernment. But even then, once again, these word wisdom has a presumptive value inside of it. That you're doing something that adheres to a good thinking, or a higher form, or a accuracy in thinking, or discernment, the ability to understand it with an accuracy or a quality. In a legal sense, used in the context of a legal trial, it referred to like the final finding, the statement or ruling is the presumptive value, based on the consideration of weighing the evidence. Presumptions are things that are credited as being true until evidence of their falsity, in a sense, is presented. Presumptions may have forms such a value, like axiology is just one of them in a sense. In ethics, value denotes a degree of importance of something or an action. It could also be a thinking. With the aim of determining if the action or the thinking is the best thing to do or the best way to do it. In a sense, the best way to live is like normative ethics. Or describe a significant, in a sense, differences in actions. It may be described as, in a sense, treating actions if they're abstracts or objects, putting value to them. It deals with right conduct, in the sense, like the term living a good life, the sense that of high quality, at least respectively to valued action that may regard as ethically good in an objective sense, or adjective sense, and that the action of, in a sense, things having low value can be regarded as sense like, bad or having low worth or not accuracy or lacking truth or lacking benefit. And what makes an action, in a sense, valuable may in turn depend on the ethical virtues of the objects or the interests. In a sense, it can alter. The object of, in a sense, ethic value may be termed or ethical, psychological, or philosophic good. Value can be defined in its broad sense as a preference concerning appropriate courses of action or outcomes, such as values reflect a person's sense of right and wrong, or what you ought to do or not do. Equal rights for all. Excellence deserves admiration, and people should be treated with respect and dignity, are representations of values. Values tend to influence attitudes, behaviors, and these types can include things like ethical, moral values, and in a sense, these are projected in political and can be in religious as well. In fact, but they're not limited to that, because we have them all the time, and also social, and interpersonal, personal, and then we can also have aesthetic values for things. So axiological presumptive value is a way of assessing, in a sense, the offered value of something. So like, i.e., God claims are, in a sense, an axiological presumptive value failure. I'm an axiologist or a value theorist atheist, and claims of gods are a presumptive value failure. Simply, if you presume a thing is of value that you cannot justify, then you have committed, in a sense, an axiological presumptive value failure. It may or may not be the case that it is actually always false, but you have failed at, in a sense, proving the burden of proof, the presumptive value that you're claiming. Axiological presumptive value success. Sound thinker uses disciplined rationality, sound axiological judgment of evaluation, evidence to make a decision, supported with valid and reliable justification. Axiological presumptive value failure. Shallow thinker, undisciplined, situational, sporadic, or limited thinking, unsound axiological judgment, lacking required evidence to make presumptive value success decisions, lacking the support of a needed, valid, and reliable justification. Often I get disheartened to see that so many people can look at the unknown, or that which is devoid of any and all understanding, and claim to know it. That this somehow is evidence for some God or another is even worse. How can they, with all honesty, even say that they somehow already know about an established scientific unknown? Like saying the universe had to have a beginning, thus the beginning was God. Total argument from ignorance. It's a scientific unknown. You can't then say that you just insert God because you want to. When all along it is what it ever was, which, will I remind you, is currently holding a confirmed status of unknown. Thus, it is still fully intact as currently unknowable, unless you can prove or justify otherwise, i.e., you cannot simply justifiably claim that such an unknown is God or evidence of a God. What really first is a God anyway? The term God equals mystery at best, that is used to explain the unknown or the mysterious, leaving us with yet more mystery, explaining nothing. Claims of God are a presumptive value failure. Simply, if you presume a thing is of value that you cannot justify, You have committed an axiological presumptive value failure. And may I remind you, an axiological presumptive value success, sound thinker, uses disciplined rationality, sound axiological judgment, the evaluation of evidence to make the decision, supporting a valid and reliable justification. And I had someone questioning me. Okay, so basically the difference between reasoning and evidence or without. My response, well, with or without valid justification because of evidence. As in, you can't claim to know the value of something you cannot demonstrate as having good qualities or accuracy to attach the value claim to. So if you lack evidence of a thing in question, then you cannot validate its presumptive value. So it's addressing a kind of justification in a sense, or justification, a theory of justification, in a sense, is a philosophy standard approach to regard the justification of a claim as primary, with the claim itself as secondary. Thus, this criticism consists of trying to show that a certain claim cannot be reduced to the authority of a criteria it wishes to appeal to. Think of it as a use matrix. If I say this is of great use for that, can you validate its use or value? And can I use this as a valid method to state a valid justification for my claims, really without evidence to validate or to help you judge from them? No. Thus, an axiological presumptive value failure as in a sense, offered valid thing that you cannot justify. Justification, or theory of justification, is a part of epistemology that attempts to understand the justification for propositions and beliefs. Epistemologists are concerned with various epistemic features of beliefs, which include the idea of justification, warrant, rationality, or probability. And loosely speaking, justification is the reason that someone properly holds the belief. When a claim is in doubt, justification can be used to support the claim and reduce or remove doubt. Justification can use empiricism, the evidence of the senses, authoritative testimony, the appeal to a criteria and authority or reason. Rationalism. A shallow thinker, i.e. not a deep thinker, is a person whose thoughts are reasoned, logical, empirical. That's what a deep thinker I'm reading. A deep thinker, I should say, because a shallow thinker, but not a deep thinker. Then I'm just explaining what I mean by deep thinker. A deep thinker is a person who's reasoned, thinks methodologically, logically, empirically, and intellectually. But a shallow thinker, unlike a deep thinker, talks in a sense quickly, often without thinking, and often uses more boastful postulations than reason. Likely just as often they push this strongly and loudly, as if this somehow adds to the substance of their argument. And they do this before fully understanding what is really involved. Whereas a sound thinker is, in a sense, being reasoned and compared, in a sense, generally based on using sound reasoning, being the result of logical thought. As a first debate process, a sound thinker commonly poses questions to understand, slowing down and assessing all the facts or factors involved, then builds their argument or ideas upon that. In classical logic, the law of non-contradiction, also known as laws of contradiction or principles of contradiction, states that contradictory statements cannot be both true and at the same time not true. The propositions of A is B and A is not B are mutually exclusive. And lastly, let me make it clear, sound thinkers do not value faith. Because what good is faith when people, including even in the same religion, following the same holy book and going to the same church or mosque or synagogue, can all come up with different interpretations of what that means, that faith, how they think God interacts, how they think God behaves. Faith is not a method to truth. Faith is simply a in a sense, confirmation of what you wish to believe. Some people say it's what you're hope for, Yeah, well, if it's hope, then it's not about accuracy. It's just about wishing. And wishful thinking to me is not of high value. So I do basically truth navigation in both inquiry questions as well as strategic use of facts, and try to use in a tag team, a debate, and a motivational teaching type of a model. I believe that we should try to compare ideas, attack thinking and not people. In this way, we have a higher chance to promote change in the sense of thinking, because it's the thinking we can help change if we address the thinking and don't attack them. And so I have an eclectic set of tools for my truth motivation techniques. So I mainly use is my hammer of truth, which is ontology, epistemology, and axiology, which is my methodological use of philosophy. And I do it in that way. Ontology, in the sense, what are you talking about? It's the inquiry. And epistemology, how do you know that? That's how I use it. I'm just explaining from my hammer of truth. How do you know that? In a sense, you're having them to give account. So you're asking for their justification. And then axiology, which then judges that will offer justification to see if it actually has the presumptive value success, if it actually is qualities worthy of a justification. Asking the right questions at the right time with the right info can change minds. You can't just use facts, though, on their own. But remember, denial likes consistency. The pattern of thinking cannot vary from a fixed standard of thinking. Or for those in denial, the risk that truth could slip in. Helping people alter skew thinking is indeed a large task, but most definitely a worthy endeavor. Some of my ideas are because I'm educated, some in college. I have a BA in psychology with addiction treatment, sociology, a little bit of teaching and criminology, as well as I'm also an autodidact. And I have taught myself or educated myself in philosophy, science, archaeology, anthropology, history. But this is, in a sense, not the only reason for my ideas. It is also because I'm a deep thinker, striving to find truth. Moreover, I am a seeker of truth and a lover of that which is true and is demonstrable or provable in reality. And just remember, thinking is good. Ones that claim otherwise are indeed a person who is erring in reason. which, may I remind you, is terrible, since the most base, in a sense, presupposition that we have is our understanding that everything begins in reason, of how we understand the world, how we understand thinking. So, I appreciate you taking the time to listen, and have a good day, and try to follow a valued belief etiquette.